Good afternoon, everyone.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I think it's a real pleasure to be here and to share my experience. I hope you can all hear me. I'm not sure if I'm really giving a speech. I don't think I'm giving a speech. I think I'm just sharing in terms of, just basically sharing my own experiences about the topic, and also, just getting us to have a conversation around this, because I believe it's something that it's a topic that, everyone needs to be having, and it's becoming more predominant right now. So I'll just give a brief background. I believe I graduated from Vivian Fowler in 1998, class of 1998. And after that, I went to the UK to further my education. And I think that was the first time that I kind of really was away from home, really, and, maybe had any sort of experience with this sort of thing. So I remember, basically studying for A-levels at that time. And I was actually under a lot of pressure because I wanted to complete it in 1 year. And also I was trying to juggle a couple of jobs as well in the meantime. I think at this particular time, this wasn't really a subject, as Mrs. Adedrigbe said. Even at that time, this wasn't anything that I had any idea about. I hadn't, this wasn't something that I had experienced in any way, or, even heard anything about. But I actually went through a nervous breakdown during my A-level exams, and, that triggered, different things as well, which I would possibly point down to, key areas which I've been able to identify over time that I probably had, traits or emotional characteristics that I had, but possibly, they all came to a head at the point where, I was having to manage all of these things at the same time. And, some of those things could be attributed to anxiety, worry, and, maybe fear. I know we all have some of those things, in different measures, but it's probably more heightened in some people, than others. So what I just wanted to even do this afternoon was, possibly just to get a feel, or, because I didn't want to do too much talking as well. I'm one of those people that used to be very, very timid when I was at school. So I was listening to Mrs. Williams talk about confidence, and, I can't even imagine how I got into the profession that I'm in right now, because I literally used to run away from even conducting school assemblies. I remember I never did one because I used to hide and, basically go to the sick bay whenever it was my turn to conduct the assembly. That was how timid and how scared of public speaking I was. So I've come a long way. I've come a long way from, I guess this is somebody saying very relatable. I've come a long way from there even to now, finding myself in the marketing profession. So I wanted to ask a general question, just to get a feeling of ideas in the house and just what people think. What would you possibly classify, or what would you refer to? I mean, if you were going to think about what mental wellness would mean, for example, what would that mean to you? Or, what would you say it is?
I will define mental wellness as being in equilibrium with myself internally and with the world. So not being triggered by the things others say to me, and also having control over what goes on in my mind, fighting back negative thoughts and the like.
Okay, that's great. So I think, I hear about being in control, about what's going on in your mind. And I think that's really important. I think what I wanted to also draw from that is, when I was younger, when I used to hear the word mental, mental mental was something that, triggered a lot of, pictures and images, in terms of what you would find on the streets and things like that. So, I like to use the word mind wellness, because I believe that a lot of the stigma that is also attached to, mental health also is because of, how it has been portrayed. So literally, if there isn't anyone that wants to give any other ideas, I'm just going to maybe wait for a few more people. If there are any others that want to share a bit more in terms of what they think it is, or, but if there isn't any, I will just, try to just go on and ask another question. So you mentioned triggers, for example, and you mentioned being in control of your mind and not being triggered by, things going on the outside of you. Would you, and I'm talking to you girls in general now, would you feel that there are a lot of things that are, that are triggers that would make you to want to lose control of what is going on in your mind right now, maybe pressures or things like that? And can you give examples of what some of those triggers will possibly mean? So thank you. Mental wellness is the ability of keeping your mind healthy. So I think, yes, that's another, at least that's what I've found as well. So I just mentioned that, what are some of the triggers as young people? I'm still young, by the way. So, but I mean, you guys possibly would have different triggers, for example, than, what I would consider as triggers. So it would be interesting to know what some of those triggers would be. What are some of the triggers that, you would consider that might affect your mental health? Anyone? I'm going to start picking names or calling if no one wants to speak. Okay, so do you want to say something, Yumiko?
Yes, I typed it in the chat that, and also so did Consola, that in our wanting to succeed in our academics, wanting to make our parents proud is definitely a trigger for me and probably other people. And also just comparing ourselves to our peers, whether it's a celebrity from afar or even our friends face to face. Those are some triggers that I think are common with all of us.
Okay, awesome. And I think that was also something that was possibly even common, for me growing up as well. I'm still growing, but I mean, in terms of that age. So I can see comparing ourselves to other people. Somebody else mentioned bullying, trying to fit in. So there's peer pressure as well. And all of these are valid. And it's important that we're having these conversations, because I believe that there's a lot of change that happens, when you are, trying. I believe at that age, really, I would say from about 12 to maybe 16, it's a really difficult period, because you're really just trying to figure things out. You don't really know where you are. You're not an adult. You're not a child, and it's, it's really, really quite difficult. And you're trying to understand who you are as a person and all of that. So all of these pressures are there, being faked. And I'll say that the difference from when, I was a teenager, or maybe I was in secondary school, was that, we didn't have social media. So now, some of these pressures were there, but I believe that it's even more amplified now, because now it's coming direct to you on your phone. Everybody has access to this right now. You can't just shut off and say, you know what, I'm not going to listen to what this person is saying, or, I'm just going to be in my own world. But you're constantly bombarded, literally everywhere you go with some of these triggers that you mentioned. And I believe that that's why, right now we can't close our, we can't really close our minds and say that, you know, this is not an issue that needs to be discussed, because it's even, you know, more serious right now, because young people now are dealing with so much more than, you know, what maybe I dealt with when I was younger, what our parents, you know, dealt with, you know, when they were younger. And there's just so much trying to, you know, get our attention in terms of our minds. And that's why it's more important now, you know, to really pay attention to what is going on the inside. You know, so I'll just talk a bit more about, you know, my own journey as well. I started with about how, you know, I was basically home, you know, away from home for the first time at the age of 16. And, you know, I suddenly found myself in this situation. And, you know, I had that episode, and, you know, realized that due to maybe, I think at that point in time as well, I'd bottled a lot of emotions. And I know that a lot of people go through different things and process different things, you know, differently. You know, mine was more anxiety, I guess, you know, so more, I guess I had maybe like a severe anxiety that I wasn't even aware of. So I was really fearful about a lot of things, and I overprocessed things in my mind as well. So, you know, basically the combination of the things that I was now exposed to brought that out at that particular time, because I was under a lot of pressure that I couldn't, you know, handle at that time, you know. So one of the things that has, I'll just give a few points in terms of how that has helped me, you know, or how I've been able to deal with my mental health, and just to see how, you know, if that could also help you guys as well. And the key points is really being self-aware of, you know, what's going on the inside of you. So your thoughts, for example, you know, why are you thinking this way? Why are you reacting this way? And all of that. And being real with yourself and understanding, this is why I'm feeling this way. And also being able to now look at the things that you can control as well. So there are many things that you won't be able to control, you know, obviously in terms of the stage of life that you are in, but being able to focus on what is within your control as well. You know, if it means, you know, being around certain people and not being around other people, that's important. You know, so for me, I had to work on, you know, things that made me happy, or I had to take certain decisions and not allow myself to be pressured, even in terms of work, for example. So I wouldn't take on more than I should at any point in time, regardless of what anybody would think, you know, about it. I also focused on my nutrition and, you know, exercised a whole lot more. And also in terms of, you know, my faith in God as well, I think a lot of it is also renewing your mind and, you know, replacing all of those thoughts. So for example, if it was worry or fear, which was my own case, it's, you know, holding on to, you know, other ideas, or, you know, ideas from God, for example, that show me a better picture or a better idea of what I initially would have thought about a situation. And literally that has helped me, you know, to literally keep my mental health, or, you know, to be well in terms of my social and emotional well-being, and also the relationships and friendships that I have. So one thing that I have to say is that it's really important to find someone that you can talk to, you know, to speak up, and, you know, to be able to share whatever it is that is going on the inside of you. So I believe that this is, you know, at this point, there's so much to say about this, but I mean, this is all that I'll possibly be allowed to within this short time that we have together. But thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shayo, for sharing your journey, which served very relatable to each and every one of us.